Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Show, your source for intel, forecasts, and success strategies. And this segment is brought to you by Xceligent, building data everywhere. Visit xceligent.com. Well, we have an incredible show for you today. We're going to talk about technology for your space, and this is important. You're going to love this show. Please welcome my guest. It's Chad Curry. Chad is Managing Director with the Center for REALTOR Technology at the National Association of Realtors. Chad is joining us here on Skype. Chad, thanks for being with us.
Hey, Michael, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me, and welcome to CRT Labs.
Yeah, I like the lab there. So if you're watching the show rather than listening, you can see the lab right there. And Chad, first of all, to get us started, why is the National Association of Realtors involved in technology, and why do they have an expert there like you?
Well, that's a great question. We get that question a lot, in fact. So the group I run is called the Center for REALTOR Technology. And we actually are looking at what emerging technologies are coming and what they mean for real estate in both residential and commercial. And so to that end, a few years ago, I went to my chief technology officer, Mark Leswing, and I approached him with the idea of us setting up a laboratory, and the purpose being that we could work directly with vendors and people who are manufacturing things that are coming on market, hardware. But also we're looking at software, and we test products for the home, for the commercial space, and for actually communities and cities as well. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But so we got approval from our budget committee here to set up a laboratory, and we set this up, and I have 3 engineers who work in both hardware and software, a user experience person, and a project manager, and that's our team. And it allows us to run a little lean and interface with groups that may not have thought of the National Association of Realtors as a way to connect with consumers and building engineers. And they see it, and they see the potential for them talking to these groups through us.
Right, and I think some of our listeners and viewers who they're all in commercial real estate all over the country may not think of the National Association of Realtors for commercial, but there's very much a lot of benefits for commercial practitioners and the commercial real estate industry at NAR. And Chad, let's talk about space, environmental concerns. You know, occupiers of space, people who run businesses like me, we're a lot more concerned with the quality of our interior space today.
Right, and so to that end, we've been looking at this market, at the Internet of Things, which means essentially everyday devices that have computers embedded in them. And one of the devices we've actually worked on is a board that I'm holding up here that's the size of about half a credit card. And there are 10 factors that this board tracks. It looks at air quality, and to break that out, we're looking at carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, temperature, humidity, light, volatile organic compounds, which are prevalent in our buildings today, from the cleaning supplies and the equipment that we put in. So your desks, chairs, they off-gas these VOCs, and it lets us see how impactful they are with this board. We're also looking at nitrous dioxide, which comes from outdoors, particulate matter, which is the fine dust particles, and how they impact your health. And the idea here, the reason we're doing this, is because the buildings of the future, if you think about how we live, we are interacting with space, but we don't really know what's around us. And we're trying to put a central nervous system into these buildings so you could save energy, so you could have more proactive and productive workers, and to actually make it a better environment for those involved.
And how has this technology evolved in the last few years?
Well, that's the thing, right? So I've been reviewing a lot of air quality management research, and I found one from 2004, and it talked about some of the things that needed to happen for better sense of how we're living. How it's evolved is that it's become cheaper to manufacture these devices, and it's become even more centralized. So the board I'm holding here, we have sensors on here that are the size of a grain of rice, and they cost us $8 for one sensor. Which is really cheap if you think about it in the grand scheme of things. And we're not even buying on bulk yet. We're just buying for our prototyping purposes. So once we start buying those sensors on bulk, the price comes down even further. And that's something that wasn't available before. Also, the ability to scale networks and have networks communicate more robustly. Because of the connectivity that we have available to us now, these programs can run faster, learn, and larger processing power is what I mean to say as well. You talk about big data. The Internet of Things is going to offer us that. So if you look at right now, currently, we have about 4 billion smartphone users around the planet. By the year 2020, there's going to be 26 to 50 billion of these smart devices connected. Mm-hmm. So imagine the data coming off that, and imagine what it means for a commercial space, right? You can really get a sense of how your space is performing and save energy by heating and cooling, by your circulation in the building. So it's pretty amazing what it affords us in a very inexpensive way.
Right. And how will these sensors connect, and how will it work for the occupier of the space?
So what we are envisioning with our sensors is that they would connect through a radio frequency rather than Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, which take a lot of battery power and energy. We're using a radio frequency that's encrypted, so that way we can have a larger range of extension. We actually have we're on the 4th floor of NAR's building. On the 2nd floor, we have a balcony out in the front of the building. And through concrete and steel, we're actually connected to that weather station and collecting data about the weather outside of our building, which gives us a really interesting picture of the microclimate here. So we're using radio frequencies that are they're unlicensed, so we don't have to worry about licensing for those, but we are doing it in a way that is safe and secure, which is something that's really important to us. And we're not dependent on the internet. So if the internet does go down, or if there's a lack of connectivity there, we don't have to worry about it.
Right, and then all that information connects, and I have these sensors around my space or my building,
yep.
And then they connect to my console or my computer, so then I can make what type of adjustments?
Yeah, well, actually, our hope is that you wouldn't have to worry about making the adjustments. The building learns in response. But you would have a web interface on your computer or your phone, and we would have certain thresholds set. So let's say for carbon dioxide, this is the thing, right? People... the cool thing is, we Fitbits. I just want to back up to those for a second. People didn't worry about 10,000 steps until they put a Fitbit on. And that's what we're thinking about with these devices. Carbon dioxide, there are certain levels that affect your productivity. It's because, we're breathing out, but the circulation isn't happening appropriately because we don't have insight into each floor and how it's operating. So what would happen is we would have a threshold, let's say 1,200 parts per million for a conference room. That would then turn on circulation in that conference room and pull fresh air in, so that way it helps people breathe better and actually be able to focus better and stay awake. If you ever have had that 2:30 in the afternoon feeling in a conference room of sleepiness, it's not your fault. It's because of the carbon dioxide levels in that room.
Right, and I think some people don't really realize, but I think more people are starting to realize that you can really increase productivity if your environment is helping you, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's a study by the NIH. They put one out last year that showed that, in fact, that a regular building stock versus a green building stock versus a green plus building stock, what happened to productivity of the workers in those environments. And definitely the ones in the green plus, which actually kept the CO2 away from the workers, helped mitigate it, perform better. And the ones in our traditional buildings didn't perform as well.
How much of this technology is really being used right now, Chad?
Well, this is pretty new. I would say there are, so for instance, there are some things coming online now that will push the adoption of this technology. There's a new standard, about LEED certification, but there's a new standard called WELL certification from the International Well Building Institute. And it's a standard that actually incorporates that type of mitigation into the standard itself. So green is about the health of the building, the types of products we put into the building. Well is about the health of the people in the building. So having a fitness area, having a place where people can, take showers if they need to, or take care of themselves in any way they need to. But also light that supports your circadian rhythm, air quality. They have charcoal air filters in there and a filtration system that's constantly monitoring the CO2 levels and will adapt based on that. The International Real Estate Managers. The Institute of Real Estate Managers, international in my head. Institute of Real Estate Managers, who are on the 5th floor here, became one of the first well-certified spaces in the United States this last year. And by the light, what I mean to say is that the the type of light that they're receiving from above and from their desks is supporting their circadian rhythm and their actual melatonin production.
And let's take a short break. I want to hear some more about that, and more about the wellness certification, and more about the technology that you're going to be using in your space. Stay with us. I'm Michael Bull. This is the Commercial Real Estate Show. Hey there, thanks for checking out the Commercial Real Estate Show. Don't miss a video of special interest to you. Be sure to subscribe below. And if you appreciate the videos, be sure and thank our sponsors. There's a link to more information about them in the description. For more videos, podcasts, and articles, check out creshow.com.